Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Moms Talk Sex podcast with me, Mor Yelvington of Morph, Transform Into You, where I help you step out of trauma and reclaim your power. I'm so honored and excited that you're here with us today, and I have the most beautiful guests, Katie May and Rebecca. Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
I'm actually so
lady.
excited that you guys are here. I've never had like two guests at one time, so this is going to be really fun, just like a girls' night type thing. So I'm excited.
Right?
The first of many pleasurable experiences we're gonna have together.
Yes, cheers to that. And this is really funny because I have to tell you, when I just started this podcast, I was all about just doing it like a girls' night vibe. Me and my girls, we have a weekly girls' night. We go out ever since we've met in our 20s, before children, before marriage. We would go out every Tuesday and we would just talk about all the juicy, sexual, fun things. And that was like, we need to do a podcast about this. So this feels really cool. So before we dive in, uh, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about who you are, what you do?
Love that. No, go ahead, Rebecca. You lead the way.
Okay, so hi, I'm Rebecca. You're gonna hear an accent. I'm originally from Brazil. I've been in the States for too long, and sex is one of my favorite subjects. I am a business and mindset coach, and I've seen so many parallels between the way that we do money and the way we do sex, because both are taboo subjects, right? Like we're not allowed to talk about it. And I've seen that with my clients, even though I'm a business coach, we always end up talking about sex and how to enhance the sex life. And Katie and I have very different experiences when it comes to the way that we brought up with sex. So, Katie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Katie May. I'm a relationship coach. In short, I help high achieving women experience and create the relationships they truly desire by embracing their vulnerability. Yes, in short, Rebecca kind of filled you in a little bit there. We have very, very different backgrounds. Rebecca actually is a big reason as to where my business is today. Because when I started, she was my business coach, and I came to her like, "Hey, I know how to help women. I just don't know how to do this business thing." And then a little ways into our journey, Rebecca came to me and was like, "Yeah, you do know how to help women. Will you be my relationship coach?" So we have 4 years of really great just mentorship and friendship between us. And now we meet weekly for business strategy, life talk, and sex is just one of the open conversations. What I love about Rebecca is that like nothing is off the table. Like her and I are just open books, and there's few friendships that you can come across and have that with. And we just talk about all the things, right? Like nothing makes us blush. And there just needs to be a whole lot more acceptance on this kind of topic, because it is just a natural, beautiful thing, human experience. And so we both share that passion for sex. And that's exactly why we're here today.
But I think it's important for you to share like the way that you grew up and the mindset around sex in your household. And in that way, I can
Yeah,
your mind too, because I think that that's really interesting.
sure. Yeah. I mean, I was raised in a non-denominational Protestant church belief system and environment. So you can say Christian. And I mean, I still identify as a Christian. I'm a believer. However, the church does not do a lot of things right when it comes to sex, having the conversations, the mindset and belief system around sex. It's basically like the message I received was, keep them closed until you're married. And then just you get to be the sexual being, like just poof, turn it
Right.
on, right? And you're just supposed to know. And it's just supposed to be awesome and amazing. And that was definitely not like what that was for me when I was first married. I like saved myself for marriage. And then my first night, and I was like, that's it. And then I spent like 4 years beating off my then husband, like away from me, to like now I'm just supposed to receive him and have this sexual energy and it was very like, I mean, I thought I'd be a very sexual person. I felt like I was a sexual human. I was excited about sex. And then when it was like, okay, this is not what I expected. This isn't that great. Like, how do we, okay, maybe this is just it, right? Like, and so that was like my early experiences into sex and marriage and my belief system. Because also it was very much about him. He wanted it all the time. And I was just kind of like, but you need it. So, I'll roll over, let you do your thing.
Yeah, one more thing on my to-do list.
Make some moans, Okay. And I just was like, man, there's gotta be more to this because people make a big deal out of this. So what am I missing here? And so that's my background piece and a big part of why my marriage also was not great especially during those times.
So what was your, like, I'm curious, like, what got you to where you are today then? Like, how did you go from that to now?
Oh, to now. Oh, well, it's funny because my husband and I had a very rocky relationship, and that's why I am so passionate about helping women, specifically high achievers, because we're just kind of a type.
Yeah.
We tend to gravitate a lot more towards our masculine, and we have a hard time receiving. And if you don't have the ability to be vulnerable, if you don't have a relationship where you feel like there is safety emotionally, then that's very hard to have vulnerability. And then guess what? Your intimacy sucks. And if your intimacy sucks, your sex isn't great, So how I went there, long story short, since we're on limited time, my husband and I separated for a brief stint. I delved headfirst into what I could control. And that was my introduction to therapy, to coaching. And I was like, oh man, I brought so much toxic BS into my marriage. I mean, he did too, but all I was focused on was everything he was doing wrong the whole time. Right. It's all his fault. So, but the empowering part of that was like, oh, I have so much that I actually have to work on. And I, as a young child, early on, I was sexually abused by my brother's friend, and thought that was no big deal. That had nothing to play. And I'm not a victim of that. Blah, all the lies we tell ourselves. And when this all came down, I was like, man, this is why I was so hostile towards my husband. And I had such a big wall and protector side up for me. And no, the vulnerability wasn't there with sex. So anyways, like I said, we reunified, and just because of all of the changes I made, I mean, our marriage got exponentially better because he had to change if we were going to make this work. Right. And I was able to implement boundaries, and I was able to feel vulnerable just because I knew and trusted myself more. And so we are, spoiler alert, we are currently divorced. So we did not end up staying together. However, I can attest to the fact that people who are in difficult relationships, how much even just your own personal work can make all the difference in your sex life, in your relationship, because, oh my gosh, we had some of the best sex I've ever had in my life after I did my own work on myself, and I was able to actually correctly communicate with him and fill him in on what I need, because I was clear about what I needed then when I never wasn't for so long. So that's in short my story. Yeah.
I love that because I feel like so many women are in that place, and I feel like that's why so many marriages end up in divorce. And what was interesting for me that you said was that you weren't even aware that you were molested as a child. So you didn't even know you were bringing all that up. And what I see with my clients time and time again is that they're just not aware. It's like we've developed some kind of mechanism to pretend that stuff doesn't exist, it didn't happen. We completely forget about it. We're not aware that we're bringing it to the table, that we're bringing it to us. And
Absolutely.
it's so interesting how we do that.
Yes. To your point, it is a defense mechanism. It's the way our brain has learned to try to protect ourselves our whole life. And especially if it's like an early childhood experience, like mine was, you don't know what you don't know. If you never actually sat across a professional and worked through that and processed stuff, you only know the way you have learned to survive. And that's literally with anybody's life experience, right? So that's why it's so important to go sit your butt in front of a coach and a psychologist, because that outside perspective just unloads and frees you from all the stuff that you think has been serving you all your life, right?
Yes, it's so true. And we're just not aware of it. So, Rebecca, I would love to hear about you. and
Okay,
your
so
story about this.
I'm so excited to share because I had like the polar opposite of everyone else that I knew. I was brought up by my mom, who is such a hippie. And my earliest memory of my mom is being naked in the silk robe, um, painting naked pictures with a cigarette in her mouth and drinking her wine. That was so sex was always a beautiful thing, was always pleasurable. My mom was always about pleasure. And when I was about to have my first time, I actually came to my mom and she took me to the gynecologist and we got all the things taken care of. And my friends used to call my house and be like, hey, can I talk to your mom? Because they wanted to talk to my mom about all the love, all the sex, all of the positions. My mom is such a non-judgmental, neutral place. And she's ever like, hey, your virginity is no trophy. You just go and have fun. This is not a trophy. This is not something you need to save up. This is not, don't believe any of that. And I've always been truly able to embrace that. But the most beautiful gift that my mom has given me is the body image, because by painting nudes, that never took away from her own beauty. So I see so many women that don't want to get naked, don't want to do it with the lights on. They have all these hang-ups. And here I was, 9 months pregnant, on my way to the hospital, having sex in the middle of the road. Because my husband looked at me, he's like, okay, so how long is this downtime? I'm like, about 40 days. Like, no, we're doing it right now. But because of both really high sex drive, and this is one of the things that Katie May helped me so much with, we were overcompensating through sex our lack of intimacy.
Okay, I can see that.
So instead of just talking about things and being vulnerable, we would just have sex and, put those same issues under the rug again and again and again.
I'm sorry. I can laugh because I was like, dang, you guys had no problems in the bedroom. And then I started to hear about how much. And I was like, all right, but you're not resolving your conflicts. And this is not a conflict solver resolution. Look, there is no limit, man. Like, go at it, do your thing. And I'm so proud of you guys, but it can't be a replacement for actual resolution with real issues, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and that was the difference, right? So when I learned to be vulnerable, when I learned to have those conversations instead of sweeping under the rug, actually having a conversation, I started to avoid having sex. And we have a lot of sex. If my husband didn't have a vasectomy, we would be popping out children every once a year. Okay, a lot of sex. And I started like, okay, maybe now it's a great time to do budgets. Maybe now it's a great time, because I was avoiding having sex because I now learned what intimacy was.
Yeah.
So
how do you balance that, right? So how does that work?
Yeah, now it's just really being vulnerable. And now we have this healthier sex life, which is still very amazing, very good, even after all these years, right?
His goals for sure.
Yeah, hashtag goals. Yeah, until like you can't walk the next day.
Good.
And you remember the night before. And we've been married for 15 years, right? So this is definitely
and you have 2 kids.
With 2 kids, yes, 2
Yep.
children. And we never hesitated to give them the iPad. And they always knew that we were having our intimate time. That was never a hang up either, So how did I resolve that? By knowing that mom is a sexual being, and I don't have to be either mom or a sexual being or an entrepreneur. I don't have to be one of those things. I can be all of them. And that's what makes me, right? Because we have this illusion that once we become moms, then we have to behave a certain way. And then once we become entrepreneurs, then we have to behave a certain way. And we're not able to really transitional. So having that intentional transition between the roles we play, and also being intimate and not taking everything so serious. Right? Like just having that playfulness about sex and when things work and when things don't work, and the sex fails or is as funny as, the things that we do make it work. So yes, I'll say the body image for sure, not comparing, not knowing that your husband is looking at this other thing means anything about you, because I think that women tend to internalize that a lot. Like, I'm no longer 20, because the truth of the matter is they don't care that you have cellulite or stretch marks. No. All they want is for you to actually want it.
Yeah.
They want that enthusiasm.
I'm curious, when you were saying how a lot of your clients that come for business, it's related to sex. So I really want to know, like, how does that relate in your world?
Sure. So just yesterday, I was sharing a story about how this lady, she came to me and we are like, okay, you don't want to charge. All right, you don't want to charge. Why do you want to not charge what you want to charge? This is because it makes me feel dirty. And then we go
Mm,
into the sex life, and I'm like, how does wanting what you want, really only your wants in sex, makes you feel? It's just like feels dirty.
mm.
Because the things we say, especially in our household, is as important as the things that we don't say. And sex and money being a taboo, they're so close related to the things that we don't actually process. So as children, we get the message that the birds and the bees is a private thing. We don't talk about it. We don't even say the right name for the right things, right?
Right.
And the same thing about money. We shouldn't ask, right? We shouldn't ask. Give me something about you, how much you make and how much you don't make. So feeling dirty, feeling guilty, feeling shame, all of those that we feel sexually are also things we feel when it comes to finances.
Do you feel like the people that are blocking receiving the money are also blocking receiving, right? I feel that so much with my clients. It's such a healing work of learning to receive, mostly ourselves for who we are, but
Oh,
really allowing the receive to come in.
that is
Have you
Absolutely.
found
so many layers to that, like, and receiving. It's like I thought I was doing so good with receiving, and then God was like, "No, dude, you still got so much work to do."
that?
Like, there's
You know,
so
it's
many
hilarious.
layers. But
I was doing
I'll
doing
I'll add I'll add on to that too,
yeah.
because with like Rebecca and what you're just talking about, and then to draw it further into with my clients, what I see too is like they're still the ones who are bitching that they're doing it all and their husbands aren't doing what they want them to do around the house, taking initiative, all this stuff, because guess what? Yeah, they also don't feel good enough to actually come out and say what they want, what they need. So it goes like she's talking about as far as the connection with money and sex, it's like also your relationship and how you communicate. So they're all tied together. And that's exactly what we find with our clients. And that's the conversations we always have. It's like, oh yeah, does she also like bitch that he doesn't do what he wants? She wants like, yes, exactly. It's like, okay, it's all tied together. So we get to the root of the shame. We get to the root of, her belief systems of like, hey, when did this come in? When did these feelings start to enter into your life? And at what point in time have they been serving you? And that's really the mindset work behind, really honestly, both Rebecca and I's methods. If I can speak for you, Rebecca, add anything you want.
For sure. And as women who are high achieving, we tend to have the personality of the fix it, right?
Yeah.
And the fixing. And then once we fix our problems, we fix our clients, we fix our household, we're just fixing. And so much of our identity is based on fixing. And it's because the things that we saw mothers and grandmothers doing, we truly don't have any role models for high achieving women who are also sexually open, who
Right.
also
Yeah.
took her pleasure, right? We don't have that role model. And we don't have the role model of business women who are happy, who did it all, and who wasn't in fixing mode all the time.
Yes, I love this so much. So you guys are hosting I don't know, a workshop, a
Yeah.
retreat, a 3-day class, and
Yeah.
you're going to talk all about this stuff, right? So I want to hear all about this because I feel like this could benefit so many moms out there.
Yeah. So I want to tell the story because just to start, because I was actually in Rebecca has an amazing businesswomen's community mastermind called the Six Figure Society. And that's how I got my start with her. And I was listening to her coach another woman about her sex life. And I'm sitting there chomping at the bit. I'm the relationship coach in the girl group, right? And I'm like, oh, I can help, I can help. And she goes, oh, well, honey, sex starts at breakfast. And I was like, oh yes, this is so awesome. So I was just like, so I just sat there and listened to her, and everything she said was pure gold. I was like, why aren't you a relationship coach? But she was like absolutely like nailed it with the intentionality and the mindset that us as women have to adopt and make sex for ourselves, right? And not just about him and if he wants it. And oh gosh, anticipating for me, I'll go back to me on a personal level, was like so much of it was just about him and for him. And it was like the light bulbs went on for me when I was like, what do I want my sex life to look like? Like if
Yeah.
if I wasn't exhausted as a mom, I have two small kids. my son's 9, my daughter's 3 now. If I wasn't just exhausted as a mom and working and miserable, right? Like if I had this ideal life, what would I even want for sex? And I've never asked myself that. No one's ever asked me that, right? And when we actually do that, it's like, what makes me feel sexy? Like, let me just stop and think about this. And so when she said that, I was like, because I'm all about getting my clients to schedule sex. And that's a big fight on their end. Like, ew, it's not romantic. It's not organic. It doesn't just happen. So I always get a lot of kickback for that. But when she said that, I was like, oh, snap. So I'll let Rebecca complete the rest of this because now we're going to actually launch the workshop because it's just so good.
Yeah. And it's just so required.
It's a 3-day workshop all about how elevate your success, all about business, and also ignite your pleasure. So I'm super excited. So elevate your business, ignite your pleasure, 3 days workshop starting February 12th all the way to Valentine's Day. So you can do Valentine's Day with a bang, a different time.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. A different
But sex
sex and
starts a
money.
driving fest. It's because we have different mechanisms, right? It's not just turning on and turning off. And if he is just the cherry on top, because let's be honest, ladies, that's all he is, the cherry on top. And you start your day at breakfast having a glorious shower, shaving all the things, put your favorite lingerie on, something that makes you feel sexy. And you feel sexy all day long. By the time that man comes home, you're ready to jump his bones. And he got to be the cherry on top. And trust me, he'll never complain about being the cherry on top.
We love cherries. We love the cherries on top.
But that simple shift makes sex about you, your wants, your feelings, all the things that you are about, not him, right? So that's the way that we switch things, working with our own natural rhythms instead of just doing one more thing on our to-do list. Let's do him. Check.
Right. Let's do me. Check.
Let's do me. And you get
and preferably 2 to 3 times a day. Check.
And there are so many men out there who there's a study, oh gosh, it's I want to say Feldhahn, I forgot her first name, but her and her husband are marriage researchers at Stanford. And there's a fascinating study that they've done talking to men. And they say that they would literally rather, like as a whole, something ridiculous, like 90% of men would be like, I would rather go do yard work than have sex with my wife who, when I know she doesn't want me.
Oh, yeah.
So contrary to so many women's belief of like, oh, men just want it and then they're satisfied, when you don't actually want it, they feel that. And it is a total rejection, right? So it's not only just a matter of for us, it's also for them. And then if they get that constant rejection all the time, well, and it's definitely going to impact your whole life, your whole relationship, right?
Yeah. So let's say I'm attending your workshop. What can I expect?
A whole lot of this. Whole lot of this.
Going to deconstruct everything you always thought about intimacy, sex, and money. And we're going to give you the space to build it the way you want it, not by default, but by design.
I love it. So where can we find out more information about this?
So it's kind of private.
Oh,
they have to follow us. They have to hit us up in the DMs. They have to slide into the DMs.
Okay, so it's not like I'm going to find a landing page somewhere.
No, you're going to be added to a private group, and it's all private. We want to be the safest space in the internet, and you have to not only follow us online, you can follow me, Rebecca, on IG at RebeccaLima.coach, and Katie at intimacy_revolution.
Yeah, so it's Katie, Katie. No, I'm sorry. It's intimacy_revolution. That's my IG, intimacy_revolution. And then my name is Katie Mae, Mae. So,
and you can send us either an eggplant or a peach emoji for booty. You send us the code word, the code emoji. It's booty. It's a peach. It's a booty.
I don't know.
I know. And cherries are boobs, right? That's what I heard.
We should add that.
Yeah.
Or cherry. Now you just added more. There you go.
Now you know the lingo if you have teenagers.
Oh, yes. Good to know. No, we don't yet, but we're getting there.
I have a preteen. She's 10, but yeah.
Yes.
So, wow, thank you for this. This has been so enlightening and so awesome. And I'm really excited for your workshop. So, thank you for being here and sharing your information and your stories. They're really
Yes.
encouraging. And I can't wait to hear about this workshop afterwards, too.
Thank you for having us. If somebody's listening to this way down the road and they're like, oh man, or we're not doing the workshop anymore for whatever reason, Rebecca and I also have a podcast. So I'm the Katie Mae Show, Katie and then MAE. So Katie Mae Show, and then Rebecca, go ahead and.
I am the half-ass hustler.
I love that. That's
This is much
great.
more
We all
fun.
need that in
The
our life.
half-ass hustler. Thank you for having us, and also thank you
Yes.
for holding this space, this really precious space for moms to come and have this safety and growth in this space, because that's really needed.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for being here. And I can't wait to have you back again.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Have a
Bye.
wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.